This television is a portal to the past. Inside sit the dreams of one's youth and the fears of one's future. When imagination equates to a certain period of time and limits are left behind, the practical and the impossible cross over during those fleeting hours known as the Twilight-Tober Zone. "31 days, 31 tales of the strange and unusual that increasingly resemble a strange and unusual world. In a season marked by the uncanny, the unnatural, the abnormal, we take a look back at what informed our own fears. Obsolescence, the haunting specter of competition, fleeting youth, and a menu served with you in mind. They're all waiting at the precipice of what lies beyond light and shadow, between science and superstition. Prepare yourselves, one and all, to enter the Twilight-Tober Zone." Welcome back to the Twilight-Tober Zone, everyone. This year we're starting with The Mind and the Matter. It's a fun episode that features a solid neurotic performance, well, multiple ones actually, and some neat effects work. Some of those effects come across great, while others, not so much. Archibald Beechcroft Esquire hates people, whether at his job, on the train, at lunch, or even when he thinks of them at home. A young co-worker of Archibald's, Henry, feels bad after accidentally spilling coffee on the ornery older man that morning, so he tries to apologize by giving Beechcroft a book called The Mind and the Matter: How You Can Achieve the Ultimate Power of Concentration. Intrigued, Beechcroft finishes the book at home that night and soaks in its teachings. When his landlady knocks on the door demanding rent, Beechcroft is annoyed. He focuses his mind on getting rid of her, and after a few seconds, she fades away. Delighted by this result, Beechcroft tries out the same technique at a crowded train station the following morning. Soon after closing his eyes and concentrating, the people and all the commotion that come with them have vanished. In fact, there's not a single person left in the whole world. Archibald is totally alone, a peace he's always craved. However, that peace transforms into regret when he starts wondering how to occupy his time. After talking with an apparition of his inner thoughts, perhaps his conscience, Beechcroft uses his newfound skill again, but this time he repopulates the world in his own likeness. Every person on Earth is now a copy of Archibald Beechcroft. They have the same face, dour attitude, and, ironically, hatred of people. This wasn't exactly the outcome Archibald was hoping for as he ponders what's really missing in his new world. Comedian Shelley Berman plays up his role as Beechcroft here. He's extremely irritable and excels at his over-the-top delivery. In other situations, that could be a detriment, especially in an older show like this one where the acting can come off as dated. But for this character in this story, I think it works. He feels like a guy you might know who endlessly complains about everything, and his hatred of people is palpable and believable.
If I had my way, here's how I'd fix the universe. I'd eliminate the people. I mean, cross them off. Get rid of them, destroy them, decimate them. Today, the landlady. Tomorrow, the world.
Goodness, even Thanos only wanted to destroy half the population. Beechcroft's view of his fellow man as being an insufferable annoyance penetrates every word he says. It's effective for setting up a character that the audience either wants to see change or get what's coming to him.
I despise people. I loathe them.
Berman also got to play different versions of Beechcroft later in the story. He didn't have to do anything different performance-wise, but the change of attire made for some amusing shots.
Will you please get off my foot, you ugly little man?
Berman himself has a commentary track on the Blu-ray where the late actor said he hated watching himself, admitting he thought he overdid his performances. But again, I think that's what this role needed. He also talked about the process of the makeup department, headed by William Tuttle, making a life mask of his face to use for an elevator sequence. It's after Beechcroft brought back the world's people in his image, so those masks were created and placed on extras to show a wider scope of what Archibald had done. The masks were made a few times after the first couple batches didn't resemble the actor. The final result is not great. Because of time constraints, the team wasn't able to perfect the process. You gotta give them credit for trying though. At the very least, this scene does make for a charmingly goofy watch. Speaking of effects, Archibald's inner thoughts appear in a few reflective surfaces so the character could interact with himself. First in the lenses of his glasses, then on a chart behind his desk, and finally on a mirror in his home bathroom. The first two are standard overlays, but the one in the mirror seemed to use the same rear projection technique as Nervous Man in a $4 room. There's only one scene of it, but it's all in one shot where Berman had to match his own movements before splitting off from his reflection and exchanging dialogue. It's impressive and convincing on both ends.
Why not get someone? That's the point. Someone is everyone. And I can't stand everyone.
Directing regular Buzz Kulik helmed his 5th episode of the 29-installment second season. This definitely isn't his best, but it's not a bad outing for him. Besides the scene in the bathroom, a continuous shot of Beechcroft as several other people stood out as exceptional and seamless. Additional credit, as usual, to Director of Photography George T. Clemens for pulling that one off. I also like the shots of Archibald in the train station. They just set the mood well, both when there were and when there weren't people inhabiting it. So definitely some solid effort behind the camera here, but without Berman, I don't think this concept would have worked as well. We had seen Rod Serling use similar character-focused concepts in some of his past scripts up to this point. A few of those more comedic-leaning stories don't play very strongly, but with the talent involved, this one had just enough juice for a passably fun tale. After seeing that a world of Archibald Beechcrofts is just as bad as the one our main character changed in the first place, he sets things back to the way they were. Content in the natural order of humanity, Archibald is a touch kinder to those around him, having learned a small lesson of tolerance in his trip to the 5th dimension. Rod takes us home with a nice ending narration that we might all get something out of at one point or another.
With all its faults, it may well be that this is the best of all possible worlds. People notwithstanding, it has much to offer.
A couple tidbits I noticed were Rod appearing via dissolve instead of his usual whip pan or walk into frame, and this part of the stock score sounding like a piece of the Ghostbusters theme. The Mind and the Matter is a decent episode. It's not an all-timer, but a unique performance from Shelley Berman makes it watchable. While I wouldn't categorize it as essential viewing, this story isn't an awful way to spend 26 minutes. In the Twilight Zone.
It'll be just about enough of that.